everyone! In this video I would like to share with you the story of how I came to create a tarot deck. The inspiration, the creative process, the purpose, and all just the magic all around it. So I really hope you enjoy this a little sneak peek and a little background behind the scenes, the story of creating this deck. And don't forget to subscribe to my channel and hit the notification bell. More videos coming about how to use the deck, and I can't wait to take you on this journey with me. I'm a mixed media collage artist who is intrigued by the power of images. You know the saying, a picture says more than 1,000 words. The tarot card creation really started purely as a creative project in the beginning. I've always been very interested in art history, in mythology, in astrology, anything magical and beautiful, and in oracles and the tarot. So in 2019, I started a collage project to create the major arcana. But wait, it actually all began in 2018 when I took an amazing online class called Create Your Own Oracle Deck by the wonderful Cathy Nichols. It came with a kit of tarot-sized wood panels, and I was in heaven. This project had everything I loved: mixed media, collage, working in a small format on wood, and I could work completely intuitively. I eventually hand-created 49 cards, and within 3 months I got the cards digitalized, printed in a pocket-sized format, and my first deck, the Inner Compass Oracle, was born. I opened an Etsy store and started selling my Oracle deck all over the world, which has been such a rewarding and truly amazing experience. Now, in the Inner Compass Oracle, there are actually 4 major Arcana tarot cards, which you can see here: the Empress, the Moon, Strength, and the Star. The Star is my favorite card in any tarot deck. Here you can see the original card on the wood panel. What I loved about creating an Oracle deck was that I didn't have to worry about creating something that is close to the original tarot. I had this complete artistic freedom to intuitively create my own interpretation of the star, and it turned out to be the circus girl. I never thought at that point that I would have the guts, though, to create a tarot deck one day. And after that was finished, I had moved on to other passions in the meantime, like my studies in art therapy. In the picture on the right, you see me at an art therapy summer intensive in Barcelona 12 years ago. That's when I was living in Spain. And I later continued in Germany with a 2-year certificate program. During these studies and a lot of self-experience, I got introduced to the psychology of Jung. I think this is a beautiful quote about the Jungian approach to art therapy. In those studies, I learned about the healing and transformative power of the image and of symbols, and that they are universal. They come from our subconscious mind, and I got very intrigued when one day I had an encounter with the tarot again during one of my classes. So let me share this little story with you. One day, one of our professors had a major Arcana tarot deck with her. She put them all face down on the floor, and we all had to pick a card blindly. We were talking about mythology, fairy tales, archetypes, and I had this strange feeling that I would somehow get the death card. And so everybody was taking a card and not knowing what they are, and I eventually pulled one myself, and well, what can I tell you? It was the death card. And yes, I'm still alive, because the death card doesn't mean literal death. It's more symbolic death. But It felt really fitting at that time because I was going through a lot of big changes and losses during my studies, which made that time very, very intense for me. And I have pulled some of the death cards from my tarot collection just to show how differently artists can represent visually this theme of transformation, of change and loss, from of endings and new beginnings. And we actually had then to sit together like in groups of just two, one-on-one, and we each then had to talk about that card of the other person. So the girl I was working with, she had absolutely no idea about the tarot, and she gave me her interpretation, what it would mean for me. And it was just beautiful. She saw all the light and the new beginnings with the sun and the horizon, and it felt really good at that moment to receive her absolutely intuitive interpretation of the card, which was a wonderful, also like a wonderful sign or proof that we can all read those archetypal symbols and images intuitively, no matter where we are, no matter who we are. So I felt this call by the tarot, and I actually got a Rider-Waite Coleman Smith tarot deck, and I started to study the major arcana, which fascinated me the most. And also 22 cards didn't seem as overwhelming as studying the whole entire tarot deck. And around the same time, I began to study and practice the soul collage method, which has become an important part of my inner journey and spiritual practice. Soul collage is an expressive arts practice founded by Sina Frost in the 1980s in the USA. You create basically a unique deck of colorful collaged soul collage cards that have deep personal meaning for you. It's like a tarot or oracle deck that you can consult to discover your inner wisdom, to find answers to life's questions. And the difference here is, of course, that all the collages and the meaning that come from the images, they all come from your own intuitive creation. So it's like a personal deck of different parts of your soul and archetypes. I often use my soul collage deck with oracle and tarot cards, and they usually work in magically synchronistic ways. So I was building my soul collage deck and studying the tarot. And of course there were lots of books, for example the Book of Symbols that talks about the universal language of symbols, and it's really like a beautiful doorway that takes you into this world of archetypal imagery around the world and all cultures and at any time in history. And this book and the images in there really inspired me. For example, for the animals that appear in my deck, I have a moth and I have a bear, actually a polar bear. And reading about all of these amazing symbols, also in different ways, and sometimes there's a poem. Other symbols that appear in my deck is, for example, the eye. That is important. The wheel reminds me of the Wheel of Fortune, of course. And there's the key, which is also a symbol in one of my cards. And here's actually a tarot card, the Tower. Color plays a huge role also in my deck, like in my first oracle deck. And of course the themes of metamorphosis and transformation, which are so crucial to the tarot. I continued reading books about the tarot and to get more into the concept of the archetypes, which was very important for me to understand the tarot. The psychologist Carl Jung used the concept of archetypes in his theory of the human psyche. The term archetype means original pattern in ancient Greek. According to Jung, archetypes reside in the dimension of our unconscious mind that is common to all human beings, and which he called the collective unconscious. These archetypes are not readily available to our conscious mind, but they express and manifest themselves in our lives through dreams, mythological stories, fairy tales, in images and symbols, throughout all cultures and all times. They can be seen as shared universal ancestral memories and experiences in our human life. Another interesting concept in Jung's theory of the development of the human psyche is that of individuation. Individuation means becoming one's own true self. We could therefore say that individuation translates to self-realization. To illustrate this process, I like the metaphor of the acorn principle. It tells you to look inside and discover what is the seed, the innate potential of your being. An acorn seed can only become an oak tree. This is its destiny, and in the seed already lives the full potential and everything it needs to become a mighty 100-year-old oak tree. Like its seed emerges from the shells of an acorn into a powerful oak tree, we also long to develop our full, unique potential and live our higher purpose. And that leads me to the next concept, that of the shadow. Because for us humans, it's not as easy as for the tree to accept ourselves and to become who we are. We often reject who we are. Carl Jung is famous for formulating the concept of the shadow, which stands for all the unwanted, hidden, and rejected parts of our personality, which we have banished to the darkness of the unconscious. However, those shadow aspects are necessary and dynamic parts of who we are. And it is our task to accept and integrate them both into our conscious awareness to become whole again. I like to see the major arcana like 22 mirrors into your soul. On my own journey of light and darkness, of light and shadow, I had found so many tools: soul collage, art therapy, oracle cards, and I wanted to continue this spiritual and creative journey. I longed for my very own personal tarot deck to give me access to the sacred and mysterious world of the archetypes, and which would act as my guide on the ongoing journey of self-reflection and transformation. Now I wanted to work with the major arcana in a way that felt natural and intuitive for me. For this reason, I not only took the artistic freedom in how I visualized the archetypal energy in the deck, but I also eventually renamed the titles for my cards. I tried to extract or translate the essence of the card's meaning for the specific purpose of working with the cards as a personal self-development tool. I found that especially if you're not familiar with the tarot, titles like the Hierophant, Death, the Hanged Man, or the Devil can be difficult to relate to and stand in the way of connecting with the card. I think those 5 cards that I just mentioned are a really good example. In the top row here, you see those cards from the traditional Rider-Waite deck, the traditional imagery, which is very iconic, and also the titles. And below you see my version of those cards, my interpretation visually and also in the title. For example, when I first saw the Hierophant, I was thinking, what is a Hierophant? I didn't want to go and look it up. Of course, later when I studied the tarot, I found out. But I always felt this is a card, I don't know what to do with it. I don't feel it. And also the imagery with this Pope-like figure and the priests. So I studied the meaning and the history really carefully. And then I went deeply inside to find the visuals and the meaning for myself. And so the Hierophant became the inner teacher, the Hanged Man. The message for this card for me is surrender. Death became transformation. The Tower brings revelation. And the Devil is the shadow self. Now, before I end this first introduction, let's step into my studio for a moment, shall we? So I got more wood blocks, the same that I used for the oracle cards, and of course lots of collage images, I got them from websites where I had a license, like for example Graphics Fairy, because I love vintage images, or also from old National Geographic magazines, or some old illustrations in some calendars, and I always manipulated them in a way that they didn't look anymore like the original. I also filmed the making of 6 of the cards. In the beginning, back then, I still used the traditional title, but I created the cards without putting any titles on there yet. I only created the images, the collages. The titles I later added digitally. Yeah, so when the deck was finished and I had decided on the titles, I digitalized the cards and added the titles. And then on 3 of the cards, I also added a digital symbol, like the infinity symbol here on the manifestation card, which you can see is not on the original. The same infinity symbol I added digitally to the strength or the maturity card here on top of the woman's head. And then for the final card, integration, I digitally added a yin-yang symbol as a symbol for the integration of male and female, darkness and light, conscious and unconscious. I have a playlist on my channel that I'm gonna link here in the info box and the comment section, where you can see how I created 6 of the cards that are in the deck. So here I am in 2022. The deck has been printed. It's called the Inner Journey Tarot, and it comes in a beautiful box that I designed and a little interpretation booklet. And I think by now it has become clear that I wish to share this deck with those of you who feel drawn to it, who feel a call to work with it, to enjoy it, to explore it. In my next video, I will share more about the purpose and how to work with the cards as a tool to explore your soul essence, your life path, and your sacred purpose. And now I'm looking forward to your comments, your feedback, and thank you so much for watching and sharing this video. Bye for now.